Hello children, in this video we will be doing active and passive voice. So children, when the subject in the sentence is the doer of the action, okay, then the verb is said to be the active voice. And in these sentences, the subject plays an active role. But when the sentence is the receiver of the action, okay, the verb in this is said to be the passive voice. And in these sentences, the subject plays a passive role. As the subject does not play an active role in the passive voice, it is often omitted. For example, I take care of my belongings. This is the active voice, okay? So when it is being transformed into a passive voice, my belongings are taken care of. We have removed by me, okay? It is okay if you omit, okay, the subject, okay, as the subject does not play an active role in the passive voice. That is why the subject can be sometimes, not always, but sometimes it can be omitted, or you can either write it in a bracket. Now let's see what are the rules for changing the voice from active to passive. First one, the object of the verb becomes the subject in the passive voice, and the subject of the active voice becomes the object of the passive voice. So it interchanges, okay, when we change the voice. The passive voice usually has a prepositional phrase like by plus doer at the end of the sentence. For example, the hunter shot the deer. This is the active voice. Now, how is it in the passive voice? The deer was shot by the hunter. You can see we have at the ending by the hunter. Okay, that is by plus the doer. Very often, the object can be omitted in the passive voice. For example, you astonish us. Active voice. Passive voice, we are astonished. Now just see the sentence. You astonish us. Okay. So now here in the active voice, we have you as the subject and us as the object. Okay. Now when we change it into passive voice, we becomes the subject, that is us. Us became we. Okay. We are astonished and you is being omitted. Okay. So because the object, okay, can be omitted in the passive voice. The same tense is maintained in the passive voice, followed by the past participle form of the verb. For example, she had written a letter. This is the active voice. So when we change it, a letter had been, okay, had been written by her. We have added been in this. Okay, that is the past participle form to maintain the tense of the sentence, that is had. Now these are some of the active and passive voice examples according to the tense. So in simple present tense, the active voice can be, first sentence, all scientists know this fact. Okay. So now when we change it into a passive voice, we have subject plus am, is or are and plus the past participle. So in this sentence, the same sentence that was there in the active voice, we have it here. This fact is known to all scientists. Next is, she writes poems. And in the passive voice, we have poems are written by her. In the present continuous tense, she is teaching us English. So in the passive voice, when you change it, we have subject plus am is are or plus being plus the past participle. So in this we have English is being, okay, taught to us by her. Next sentence, the boys are cutting the grass in the lawn. This is the active voice. So in the passive voice we have the grass in the lawn is being, okay, cut by the boys. Now next tense is the present perfect tense. So under that we have two sentences. The first one is I have written a book. So while changing it into a passive voice for the present perfect tense, we have the rule like subject plus has, have been and plus the past participle. So for the first sentence we have a book has been written by me. Second sentence in the active voice for the same tense, we have elected her monitor of our class. In the passive voice, we have she has been elected monitor of our class. Okay, we have has been. Now next tense is the simple past tense. The first sentence is I wrote a letter under active voice. So in this, while changing into a passive voice, the rule that can be followed is subject plus was, were plus past participle. The first sentence is a letter was written by me. Second sentence in active voice in the same tense, people heard a voice crying piteously. Under passive voice, we have a voice was heard crying piteously. So in this simple past tense, we have was used. Next tense is the past continuous tense. So in the active voice, we have the first sentence, Mother was cooking a nice meal. Now in order to change into a passive voice, the rule that is used is subject plus was or were plus being and the past participle. So the same sentence when you change into the passive voice, it is changed into a nice meal was being cooked by mother. Okay, cooking became cooked and was being is added. Next sentence under the same tense, children were helping their parents. Under passive voice, we have parents were being helped by their children. Next tense is past perfect tense. In active voice, we have the sentence, they had lit the candles. So, to change the sentence into a passive voice in the past perfect tense, the rule is subject plus had plus been plus the past participle. So, the first sentence is the candles had been lit by them. Okay. The second sentence under the same tense, the viewers had nominated the actress. In the passive voice, the actress had been nominated by the viewers. Next is simple future tense. In active voice, the sentence is, I shall not tolerate this. So, in order to change into a passive voice, the rules for this tense is subject plus shall or will plus be plus past participle. So, the first sentence in the passive voice, this shall not be tolerated by me. Now, by me is added in the bracket. That means it can be omitted. Next sentence, in active voice of the same tense, the school will provide transportation. In the passive voice, transportation will be provided by the school. That means this again, by the school is in the bracket. That means it can be omitted. But you can also write it in a bracket. It doesn't matter. Now these were all the different transformation using the tenses of active and passive voice. Now, how to change when a sentence is in an imperative sentence to change it into a active or a passive voice. So while changing the voice in an imperative sentence, we usually add let at the beginning of the sentence in the passive voice. For example, complete the work. This sentence is in the active voice. So, let the work be completed. This is in the passive voice. So, mostly when you see sentences that are commanding or requesting, okay, that time you can use let in the beginning while transforming it into a passive voice. Next is interrogative sentence. So while changing the voice in an interrogative sentence, that is a question, the interrogative structure remains the same. That means the question in an active voice will be a question in the passive voice as well. It will not change. However, when the sentence begins with who, it is changed to whom in the passive voice. Like suppose if the sentence in the interrogative sentence in the active voice is beginning with who. So while changing it into a passive voice, you need to change it into whom. For example, who gave you the bag? This is the active voice. By whom was the bag given to you? Now, this is the passive voice. Now you can see who has changed to whom in the passive voice and the question mark is not removed. Okay. Second example, how did you solve the problem? This is the active voice. Next, how was the problem solved by you? This is a passive voice. Now you can see in both the sentences, the sentence is not changed. Okay, we have not removed the question mark. It is a question. The only thing is that we have changed the voices. Now here we have the tenses with active voice, passive voice, and the auxiliary or the helping verbs that are used in the passive voice tenses. So in the simple present tense, the sentence is I write a letter. For that, in passive voice we have a letter is written by me. And the auxiliary verbs, okay, or the helping verbs used are is or are. Okay. In the simple past tense, I wrote a letter. A letter was written by me. So, in this the auxiliary verb or the helping verb used is was or were. It is based on what type of a sentence it is. In this we have was written by me. In simple future tense, I shall write a letter. So, in the passive we have a letter will be written by me. So, the auxiliary verb used is shall be or will be. So, for this sentence we have will be. Next is present continuous tense. I am writing a letter. So, while changing it into a passive voice, a letter is being written by me. So, is being is the continuous tense. So, in this the auxiliary verbs like is, am, are and plus being is used. So in this sentence, is being is used. In the past continuous tense, the active voice is I was writing a letter. Now, while changing it into a passive voice, a letter was being written by me. You can see we have past as well as it is continuous by being. So the auxiliary verb used here is was or were plus being. So in this sentence we have used was being. Next is present perfect. I have written a letter in active voice. In the passive voice we have a letter has been written by me. And this is the auxiliary verb, that is has been or have been. Similarly, we have for the past perfect, here we have had written. So had written is changed to had been written in the passive voice. A letter had been written by me. So the auxiliary verb used here is had been. Future perfect tense. I shall have written a letter. So here we have a letter will have been written by me. Okay, you have will have been. So the auxiliary verb used is shall have been or will have plus been. Now when the word should comes, I should write a letter. So in the passive voice, it can be changed as a letter should be written by me. The auxiliary verb is should be. Must. I must write a letter. A letter must be written by me. So the auxiliary verb here is must be. May or might. I may or might write a letter. So in the passive voice, we have a letter may or might be written by me. Any one word you can use. Next, can or could. I can or could write a letter. Active voice. Passive voice, a letter can or could be written by me. Can, could is the auxiliary verb plus be. Order. Write a letter. Okay. So here we have in the passive voice, let a letter be written. So this is like an imperative sentence. Request. This is also an imperative sentence. Please write a letter. Next, you are requested to write a letter. So whenever you feel like tenses are being asked or auxiliary verbs are there, this is a way how you change it into a passive voice. You can remember and keep in mind some of the words that are given in the auxiliary as well as for the past and the different aspects of tenses. This is the exercise now. Change the voice in the following sentences. So first sentence, what are we missing as a nation? So this is an interrogative sentence. So the interrogative sentence shouldn't be changed into a full stop. It should be kept as it is. Only the voice should be changed. So the answer is, what is being missed by us as a nation is a passive voice. Next, a rainbow colors the entire sky. This is now a normal sentence, has to be changed into a passive voice. The entire sky. Now we have taken the last part of the sentence. The entire sky is colored by a rainbow. Third sentence, the elderly people can mold the nation. The answer is, the nation can be molded by the elderly people. So children, basically many of the times while changing it into a passive voice, from the question the sentence, it becomes interchange, like the last sentence that we saw, the elderly people can mold the nation. So the nation was the ending of the sentence, which became the beginning of the passive voice. The nation can be molded by the elderly people. So children, with this we have now completed with the explanation. Thank you for listening. Take care.